So after Silverstone, Christian Horner was fired from his duties at Red Bull Racing and was replaced by Laurent Mekies. In many ways, this was a very long time coming, and it makes sense considering the decrease, to put lightly, in Red Bull's performance. But why now? It sort of seems to be part of an effort to make Max Verstappen stay at Red Bull Racing. But what does this all mean? I'm Rachel, and in this Race Rambling, we will talk about it all. So, this is big news. Christian Horner is out. He's been in charge of Red Bull for 20 years since Red Bull started in 2005. They've never had a different team principal. This is significant. I don't have to explain this to you. If you're watching this, you know this. But it's honestly a shock to me that it's happening now, and I don't quite, we'll touch on all the points. The only reason I can think of why it's happening now is because they're trying to keep Max, or Max is leaving, and they're so upset he's leaving. They're like, well, you need to go because you've clearly screwed up. I think it's kind of like more so like stop the bleeding, because obviously this isn't working. It's been a power struggle for a long time. But with all of that, with the scandal at the start of 2024 with the text messages and his female employee, it's because nothing happened then when there was very clearly a power struggle and half of the team wanted him out. And I just thought nothing was going to happen. I thought, well, he's a team principal. They'll keep him. So it's just interesting that it's happened now, and I feel like a lot of people feel that way, and it must be because the Max thing's sort of coming to a head, and they've got to do what they can do to keep him in some way. We'll get on all of the specifics of that, but I'm a couple days out still pretty shocked about this. It kind of felt like it came out of nowhere. And I don't know, I just keep coming back to it must be related to Max in some way. It's because he's had two major success streaks with Red Bull. First with Vettel, went down for a few years, and now with Verstappen. So obviously he's able to help rebuild a team and turn things around. It's not like they're just firing him for this bad performance. He knows how to run a team. He's run a team successfully. He's taken a team from nothing to Vettel, and he's taken a team back from nothing, well, not nothing, but not as fantastic, to now where Verstappen's been at. Obviously things are going to decrease. You're never going to be amazing forever. Mercedes fell off. Everybody falls off. Eventually, they're just going to poach all your talent. All the other teams who can afford to are going to poach your talent. There's going to be a change in regs. Somebody else is going to get it right. And you're not going to be the best forever. But that can't just be the only reason why they're getting rid of him, because of the performance. And with that, it feels kind of too little too late, which we'll touch on at the end. It's just kind of mind-blowing to me. I wonder if there's something that happened that we didn't know. It doesn't seem to be that way. If there was some other scandal that's going to come out, I don't think they would have been so amicable in their verbiage, which is also interesting. Something else to know. It's kind of interesting that we clearly know, everybody knows, the language is that Red Bull have fired him. Usually they're in some way, they're like, oh, he decided to leave. No, Red Bull is saying, no, we didn't want you anymore. We got rid of you. Even though that's typically what happens, but the language is, oh, they've decided to part ways. It makes me wonder what's next for Christian Horner. I honestly don't know. It's hard to picture him anywhere else because he's been the face of Red Bull its entire existence. You can't picture him there's rumors he'll go to Ferrari. I don't quite believe that. I'm mostly praying it's not true, but I almost please, we don't need that mess. We don't need that mess. But where else could he go? I don't know. I'm sure some lower team would snag him up. Maybe he'll end up at Alpine. Shit. Maybe he'll end up at Alpine. I did say the other day that I feel like they're acting very similarly with how they've been taking care of their drivers. But I'm curious to see what this means for Horner, and where he goes from here. I feel like he might just go quiet. But again, he survived the scandal of last year and nothing happened because of that, which is disappointing. They did their investigation or whatever and found nothing. We're like, come on. I don't know. We'll just have to see where it goes. Actually, now that I say it, I wouldn't be surprised if he had ended up at an Alpine sometime. Anyways, perhaps more importantly, because Horner's just a team principal, but Max Verstappen's the guy. What happens now with Max? So like I've said, and a lot of people have been saying, it feels like some sort of last effort to keep Max or a retaliation against losing Max. I think it's more so a last effort to keep Max. But again, we'll get to this at the end. I feel like it's kind of too little too late. We'll see what happens. But we all know there's been heavy rumors of Max going to Mercedes for a year now. Things have been seemingly picking up. George seems kind of nervous about his position at Mercedes. There's rumors that they were tracking like private planes going to Sardinia, and they think Toto Wolff and Max Verstappen met in Sardinia this past week. Girl, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. But even that is weird because Christian Horner was very like, he shouldn't leave this year. I don't think he'll leave this year. He hasn't told me that nothing. Yeah, he hasn't told you nothing. He's clearly told your boss something. And that's why you're gone, Christian. I don't know. I keep saying I don't know. It's very strange. This situation is quite strange to me. Because again, I can't believe it's happened now. It has to be because of Max in some way. I don't know if Max will actually leave, but what I was trying to get at a couple seconds ago before I got distracted is Horner made a comment at Silverstone. He's like, he won't leave for 2026. Surely he'll stay out 2026, see how the regulations develop. There's no proof that we'll get it wrong and Mercedes will get it right. See how the regulations develop and then pick for 2027. Meanwhile, his contract is through 2028. That was a weird comment. Why would you say that? Surely he'll finish. Like, you should just say he's got his contract. I mean, we all know he has exit clauses. He can get out. See, well, this is another thing. The race is saying that potentially he needs to be in the top 3 by the end of July. He is in the top 3, but that would give pressure to Red Bull to make a change now, immediately now, to appease Max now. And not ruling that out completely, I do think, I mean, if you've got an exit clause, like, but also I don't know. I never was convinced he would leave. Okay, messy thoughts, man, messy thoughts. But I was never convinced he'd leave to Mercedes, because why would Mercedes, again, people are saying that, oh, they've nailed the power unit. How do we know? Nobody knows until Australia next year. Nobody knows. How would Max know? So from that, I'm like, okay, yeah. And I've been saying, I think the driver market is going to be pretty interesting this year, because who's going to move? A move now is like, you have no idea. You have no idea how things go. So it kind of doesn't make sense to make a move now. The reason why he would want to move now is he hates the environment. And that's maybe the biggest part of it. We all know Jos Verstappen, his dad, has been very vocal against Christian Horner. There's been a huge internal power struggle in Red Bull, publicly at least since the scandal last year. We know that Christian Horner and Helmut Marko have been kind of saying different things for a while. There's been a power struggle there. We know when the scandal happened, it seemed like the Austrian side wanted to dump Horner and the Thai side wanted to keep Horner, so ultimately he stayed. It's been a mess for a while. That's the thing. Like, this has been a long time coming, but it's also like, because it's been such a long time coming, you didn't think it would ever actually happen. And again, I need to stop saying it's too little too late, because I have a whole section about that. But like, honestly, and you've got to think Max feels a similar way. He's kind of made it clear he doesn't plan to be here forever. He's not going to have as long as a career as Lewis Alonso. As long as he's kind of done, he's going to be done. He wants to be able to race another series while he can, and I respect that 100%. And that always kind of made me feel like he would just leave sooner than he would go to a different team. I still kind of feel that way. I mean, he's still in his prime enough that he's got more years. He can kind of fool around in F1 before he decides, okay, I'm going to go fool around somewhere else. But that's the point. He's not going to stay to fool around. He's only here. He's said he's only going to be here while he feels like he can do something. So if he moved to Mercedes, it kind of would be like a Lewis going to Ferrari type thing. Like, we'll just see. I guess we'll try this out before I retire. I don't know, but you have to feel like he feels the same way as Jos, because he hasn't publicly said anything against Horner quite, but, there was lots of comments, Checo, don't suddenly forget how to drive. He hasn't become a worse driver when Checo was doing poorly. He's kind of said some things about the second teammate situation, which he's kind of been not in favor of the decisions that have been made, which I think is correct. But it's just so, I mean, this whole video is kind of like, well, we'll just kind of have to see. We'll just have to see what happens, because none of us know. So let's move on a little bit to Laurent Mekies, because this is kind of interesting to me. So if you don't know Laurent Mekies, he had multiple positions at Ferrari before ultimately becoming race director. He was there kind of through the Binotto era, which, yikes, we all know how that went. I am not just going to like place all the blame on him. Obviously not. I think, Ferrari is a complicated issue. It ultimately seems like the biggest issue in the Binotto era was a lot of pressure. Not just that it's only the Binotto era, but like then specifically, was pressure. Everybody felt like we're Ferrari, we should be winning, and this is a continual problem. But it seemed amplified for whatever reason under Binotto. And so they'd make stupid strategy decisions. They just do things that were stupid. He's not free from that. But I'm also not going to put all the blame on him for that. Obviously not. He wasn't the strategist. And so he left Ferrari in 2023 to go to what was AlphaTauri at the time. Now Racing Bulls, whatever the hell it's called. I just call it Racing Bulls. And he ultimately became team principal there for last season. So last season and this season, he's been the team principal of Racing Bulls. I can't comment too much on his job there. I always feel like the job of team principal at Racing Bulls is so fake. Because it's like, what decision you don't have any decisions. Your whole job is cleaning up whatever mess Christian Horner has left you, especially during his tenure at Racing Bulls. It's been swapping of drivers that he has no control over. And from that perspective, I actually think they've done quite a decent job. They've been doing decently this year. They have two, I don't think you can call Liam a rookie at this point, but they've managed Hajar quite well. I think from all aspects, I feel like he's done a decent job of cleaning up Christian Horner's mess at Racing Bulls, which, I have some faith that he'll be able to clean up the mess in Red Bull from that perspective. But it's also a huge step. And obviously, it wasn't going to go to anybody else. Obviously, they're just going to promote from within. There's nobody else it could have been. It was going to be him. They're just going to promote from within. But I really think his experience can go one of two ways. Either he is good at cleaning up messes because he has experience doing that at Racing Bull and Ferrari, or he can kind of be part of the pressure problem. I don't know. We'll have to see. Who knows how long he'll even stay in this position? Honestly, he could just be here a couple of weeks until they find somebody else. Again, I don't know who else it would be. That's the thing. Literally, who else would it be? You're not going to get any of the big name team principals. So I don't know. But I think that honestly, of all, this is a good decision. I have to say that about the whole thing. I think this ultimately is a good decision. It should have happened a long time ago, and that's where my frustration and confusion comes from. But it's the right thing to do. And ultimately, on to the question of, is it too little, too late? I think yes, but you have to stop the bleeding at some point. You have to stop cutting the wound deeper at some point. That said, I have a picture of Adrian Newey here. They're just stopping cutting the wound deeper. They're stopping digging a bigger hole, but they're still left with a massive chasm that they're going to have to fill in. And that's difficult because, as I mentioned earlier, even the success streaks never last forever. Your talent gets poached. Your high ranker, your Adrian Newey goes to Aston Martin. I'm kind of surprised nothing happened then. I'm honestly pretty surprised that wasn't enough. And that also makes you wonder, is the power struggle so deep, the dysfunction so deep? This isn't necessarily going to fix it. If they weren't able to get rid of what was seemingly clearly a problem for over a year, is this enough? Power-wise, functionally? Probably not. But it did seem that Christian started having way too much power than he should have, and that kind of became an issue. So if you have less power within one person, that more democratic in some way, I don't know. But my point is, you've already lost a lot of your talent. The car has already gone to a bad place. You've already kind of ruined, your second seat is ruined for who knows how long. You're not going to, while Max is there, you're never going to get another top talent. So maybe this is them just finally admitting defeat and being like, well, we've got to cut it at some point. Might as well do it now. Might as well start the rebuild now. Why wait for the season to end? Give us as much time as we can with the new regs. I don't know. Because this ultimately, is this even enough to keep Max is the question. I don't know. Like I said, it seems like that just because Horner's gone doesn't mean there's still Doesn't mean that's fixed whatever power issue is occurring within Red Bull. Doesn't mean anything. And ultimately, what's going to keep Max or not is the car. It's the car. And again, we don't know how 2026 is go. There's no saying that Mercedes is going to knock it out of the park. There's no saying somehow Red Bull won't knock it out of the park. They fully could. I doubt it, considering, like I said, they've lost a lot of their engineering talent. But ultimately, what's going to keep Max is the car. If they can't give him a good car, he won't stay. And maybe he could go to Mercedes. He'll go to whatever team is knocking out of the park at the 2026 regs, and that will probably happen in 2027. So I do think this might keep him for 2026. And maybe that's actually what Christian Horner was hearing. Maybe that was what he was hearing, but it was like, yeah, on the condition that you leave. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? I've talked enough. We've been talking for 17 minutes, and maybe I finally had an aha moment. Interesting. I don't know. I do think this will keep him for 2026. We'll see what happens in 2027. There's kind of no reason for him now to leave in 2026 unless, again, the struggle is so deep that this doesn't ultimately fix anything. But still, they've got themselves in trouble. I think even just their junior drivers are much more for trouble than they've cared to admit. Because, again, what does happen once Max leaves? They've been thinking about Max for far too long, only Max for far too long. You don't have anybody to come fill the plate. If they had a decent car and Max said leave, I do think some other top talent would be interested and he could go there. Didn't Horner said, oh, if Max says leave, I'll just take Oscar? Yeah, I don't see that not happening. Of all the drivers, I feel like it could be Oscar. We'll see, I don't know. But again, only if Oscar's just proven himself now. He's only going to wherever will give him a top car at this point. I really do think the second driver thing is a much bigger issue than they've let it. And who's that girl that made that TikTok? Second Red Bull seat curse. In corporate America, we just call that bad management. And they finally admitted it, that it is bad management. So, I don't know. Makes you wonder if they should I don't think they should have racing bulls. Man, it should. Because why are you a team principal of essentially 2 teams? I think if you want to fix the issue, that's got to be an issue that's fixed. You can be, well, it's not going to be Sauber and Ferrari anymore, but Haas and Ferrari now, it can be that way. But I honestly don't know how you've let that happen. I mean, all of F1 is a conflict of interest. Anyways, I've talked enough. Because the whole conclusion, we'll just have to see what happens. I can just give out all these hypotheticals. We'll literally just have to see what happens. I think this is a step in the right direction. Too little, too late? Yeah, probably, but you've got to stop it at some point. The first step of solving the problem is realizing you have a problem. They've done that. Might it take years? Yes, but it was going to take years anyways. Maybe it'll now take 6 months less. Anyways, we'll see what happens. Thank you so much for watching. Next week, I'm going to be doing my mid-season review. I will also be at the Toronto IndyCar race. Very exciting. So I'm going to pre-film that. Probably won't have any yapping about the IndyCar race because I will be busy because I will be at the race. But we'll see what happens. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching this and you'd like to listen, it is available on all podcasting platforms. If you're listening and you'd like to watch, you can watch on YouTube. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, rate, follow, all of the things, and I will see you next week.